of a wall clock here, what do we have? We have a short arm which moves slowly, is that sun going around the earth as seen from the earth, making a complete round in 365 days approximately. We have a long arm which kind of moves faster. What is that? The moon. Okay, the moon is going to complete one circle in 27 days from one star to the same star again. And if you look at from one phase to the same phase again, it's going to be 29.53 days. So we have a faster moving object, that's the moon. So that they think of this as they working like a short arm and a long arm of the wall clock. Now, wall clock also needs that reference of 360 degrees divided into certain compartments. Well, here we have 360-degree circle divided into the nakshatra reference system of 27 nakshatras. And one more thing we need is a solid reference point as a reference point to track longer periods, okay, beyond 1 year. Of course, by the way, one thing I forgot to mention is the seasons. We have the seasons, we also have the cardinal points, okay? Very, very perfect system. And ancient Indian astronomy is so precise, is so sophisticated that it has figured out how to track this time. Now, it needs a reference point, and as I said, the reference point comes in the form that is what I recommend. I encourage everyone to think over it, is the epoch of Mahabharata war that occurred in 5561 BCE. What is the beauty of it? Well, everyone knows Mahabharata. We have a well-preserved text of Mahabharata, and if somebody forgets this, but somebody still has access to scientific knowledge, logical reasoning, common sense, and empirical, and the knowledge of darshanas, they will always able to recover this number of 5561 BCE. They may not call it 5561 BCE, they may call by a different number, but they will exactly able to recover how long ago this Mahabharata happened with respect to their time, whatever that time is. That's the beauty of the rich evidence that is being embedded by Vyasadeva in the Mahabharata text. Okay, so based on that, this is something I worked for 8+ years. Okay, started my work in 2012, and what I wanted to do was so I had the reference point of the Mahabharata year 5561 BCE, but I needed someone who is expert in our Indian lunisolar calendar, a panchanga, and someone who is convinced of my work. Okay, because you need that trust if you are going to work together, otherwise it's a waste of time. It took me 8 years, and just for fun, the month this time, like, which was what, today or 2 days ago, is tapasya. So I would say it took me 8 years of tapasya. This is a tapasya, tapasya, 8 years of tapasya to finally I succeeded in collaborating with one of the great panchanga makers family in India. In fact, it is one of the oldest living family panchanga tradition, if not the oldest. It's called Date Panchang, and you see that name somewhere here below, like datepanchang.in. And right now it's a very humble effort. So we are working together. So every day on Twitter at the handle at Date Panchang, uh, the day's Panchang is updated. Okay, at 5:30 in the morning India time on Twitter. Going forward, the goal is to turn this into a app where anyone around the world, for their location, they would able to see this panchang plus any changes to the tithi or nakshatra and so on. And eventually we will also add two other things which are not included here, which is a yoga and karan, and therefore muhurta, because yoga and karan are relevant in the case of finding the proper muhurta, like auspicious time. For simplicity, we have not included it here, and this is very functional calendar. Quickly, I will mention. So as a reference date, because we understand those dates right now, we have a Gregorian date, we have a Saura date. This is our some new introduction of our ancient tradition of the solar months, which we frankly lost. We don't have a solar calendar. Indians right now don't have a purely solar calendar with solar months, but it existed in ancient times, and we have re-established that. That 2077 that you see is a Vikram Samvat, Okay, then you can also see Shalivan Shaka 1942, and don't forget this Mahabharat Samvat here 7581. If you take that, most of the other things will be common that you can find in any panchang right now. Okay, but there is a reason. I'm not going to go into the details of what the Bharat Dinarshika is and what are some of the problems that this particular panchang overcomes. But my point being, for chronology purposes, the Mahabharata epoch is a beautiful reference point. Okay, and Mahabharata Samvat or before Mahabharata Samvat, if we ever find a courage, a common sense, scientific acumen, logical reasoning, and ever we find a reason and we are convinced that this is a right way to do, which I am convinced, guess what? Every day people ask me, why do we use BC and AD or BCE and CE? Well, I don't see anything wrong with it. I mean, that's going to be the world calendar for a foreseeable future. So we must remain familiar with it. But if Indian civilization wants its own calendar, it can be done using Mahabharat Samvat. All right. So, quickly summary, there are different four types of yugas that I described. They should not be mixed. And when that happens, that's why we have this whole complex problem of Ramayana, somebody claiming Ramayana more than 1 million years ago. And some will even go to the extent of claiming multi-million years ago. Let me tell you something beyond astronomy. There is a misconception about astronomy evidence. People think that everything in astronomy is cyclical. Well, here is a news for those people who think that way. They are wrong. There are many things in astronomy. They can be, for practical purposes, considered perfectly cyclical. They're never perfectly cyclical. They can be assumed to be cyclical. On the other hand, I can tell you there are many things in astronomy they never repeat. Okay, so no, just please get rid of this idea that everything in astronomy is cyclical, at least in a very simplistic fashion. Okay, that is also causing a lot of confusion. So I'm saying that's one part. But the second one is there are different types of yugas. As I showed you, there are four different specific quadrants. They should not be mixed. Okay, and we together as a society, as a culture, as a civilization, we together can change the yuga of a philosophical type. Okay, we can increase the health of our society. We can increase the nutrition of our land. That's what I'm talking about, the top left hand corner philosophical type. Okay, on the other hand, when it comes to individually we can change the yuga of a practical type. Okay, I can change my health irrespective of what others do to their health. Okay, I can the events that happen outside, I may not have a control, but I may not have a control how they occur, but I can change, I can decide my response to it. And in that sense, I can control and I can modify the individual local contextual yuga. I can choose to be happy, I can choose to be sad. Okay, when I feel a separation from my lover, I may feel like a very short period of time is like a long time, like the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu described his separation from Krishna, or the other way. Or actually Einstein performed the similar experiments too. Okay, spending a time with a beautiful lady in oyster bar in New York, he spent almost close to an hour, and when he looked at the watch, he know it was an hour, but he said, that's like just a, I barely spent any time, like a 1 minute. Then he did another experiment sitting on a hot pan. I'm not joking, you can go and see that paper. And when he felt like he's sitting there for a long time, like an hour, he got up, looked at the clock, and realized he was just sitting there for a few seconds. Okay, so that is that second category, which is what? If you are sitting on a hot pan, get up very fast. Okay, that's how you can change the yuga. All right. And next one, which is where I started with the problem, enough damage has already occurred due to the application of that theoretical yuga, specifically the mathematical formulation that was meant for astronomy calculations of the precise and accurate orbital periods of the planets. But unfortunately, by mistake, we don't know who did it, when that happened. It's with us, unfortunately, for a while. That theoretical yuga concept from astronomy was used to track the chronological yuga, and we confused it somewhere. So the Treta Yuga, as said in Ramayana, is not the Treta Yuga of 864,000 years, or a Dwapar Yuga that is referred to in the Mahabharata is actually, sorry, yeah, the Dwapar Yuga, I said 864,000. So Treta Yuga is not more than a million years ago. Dwapar Yuga is not of a 864,000 years, and the Kali Yuga is not of a 432,000 years duration. For example, the Ramayana evidence for 14,000, it's occurring 14,000 years ago. It's not just based on astronomy. There are many researchers or so-called researchers uh, having this fake narrative in social media, even in the conferences and even what they write in the blogs and whatnot. Okay, the Ramayana evidence for the 13th millennium BC is being corroborated by many other disciplines of science, especially hydrology, okay, and paleontology and climatology and oceanography and many more. Okay, it's not just limited to astronomy, but astronomy, the beauty of astronomy evidence, it is the only discipline of science, only discipline of evidence, at least in the Indian historical context, which is capable of giving you the precise and accurate dating. No other discipline of science, I assert that no other discipline of science will give you a precise and accurate dating of our historical events down to the day and a month and a week and a year. They may able to give you a approximate time bracket, and that something we should always make use of. All right. And so let's correct that course. Let's not get stuck into this dogma of the Dwapar Yuga of 864,000 years to artificially, in a very foolish fashion, pushing the dating of Ramayana to more than a million years. Okay. We have no evidence whatsoever in Valmiki Ramayana to take it there. In fact, on the contrary, we have sufficient evidence to support, to corroborate, to assert that Ramayana indeed happened around 14, just around 14,000 years ago. All right. And finally, uh, if we want to bring all this chronology together in a meaningful fashion, now I do not feel very passionate about in the sense of we should not use BCE and CE. I mean, I can see the rationale behind it, but there are these people who would really like to see the BCE and CE or AD BC are removed, and I understand that logic. But if you want to do that, then you have to take to tapasya, you have to take to swadhyay. You understand what is happening here. You have to get rid of the dogma of 864,000 years of Dwapar Yuga as like a physical yuga for chronological purposes. Then we have all the nuts and bolts we need to restore our chronology on our terms using Mahabharat Samvat and before Mahabharat Samvat. What do we need? We need a panchang. We need that reference point of 5561 BCE. We have already started steps in that direction using Bharat Dinadarshika. For example, the Mahabharat Samvat right now, this today, when I'm recording this, what is that, 24th January, it's still 7,581. So when would it change to 7,582? It will change in next couple of months on the day of Vasanta Sampat or a spring equinox. That is when the solar calendar begins. Okay, so I would encourage everyone who listens to this to, and if they are on Twitter, to go to Twitter, follow the handle at Date Panchang, and become familiar with this. It provides a solid foundation for streamlining our Indian history. And what I just shared about the yuga, it's only in my presentations. It is not there in any book yet. Eventually, it will be in the book. But in the meantime, to understand these sheet anchors of our civilization, if you are in India, these are the three books of mine. They are published through Subbu Publications. Subbu Publications, you can order them online, individually, or as a combo. If you're outside India, you can order all three of them from Amazon. Different covers. For one book, the Historic Rama, the title is different from that in India. So in India, it's called 12,209 BC. Here it is the Historic Ram. Identical book, same content. You can order this from Amazon if you are outside India.